everyone, welcome back to the vast and ominous Comic Vault. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And Eric and I are back to talk about more Ultimate Spider-Man. Today we are tackling Volume 14 already.
14,
wow.
Yeah.
Warriors.
And
bringing back a whole bunch of stuff we haven't seen in a little while. Kingpin is back.
Kingpin is
Black
back.
Cat is back.
Yep. We last saw them in that arc that was around issue 50.
Right. And introducing, and this is, because we've talked about this a lot, Bendis doesn't always have the greatest sense of continuity, or sometimes seems to kind of conveniently drop things that he just doesn't feel like dealing with. He's really consistent here with those two characters,
yes.
At the very least.
Yes,
them and Elektra.
From
like,
that.
It feels like a direct sequel to all that stuff,
Yeah.
and like he's not forgotten any of that.
Yep.
And also introducing a bunch of new characters.
Elektra's in red, finally. I do want to amend something I said last time.
Okay, sure.
So last time I said we were doing my favorite story arc. And I'm pretty sure if you look at that video, you can see me hesitate before I say that, because I did the same thing I always do.
Did you think we were going into something else?
Well, there is a direct sequel to this story.
And it's better?
No, I just don't remember what's in what.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So there is a direct sequel to this called Ultimate Knights. It is the last thing Mark Bagley does. It's his last arc before he leaves, because he comes back and does Death of Spider-Man.
Who takes over?
Stuart Immonen.
Oh,
who
really? I didn't know
love,
that.
but do not like on Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay. I think you've talked about that, but I forgot. Yeah.
But so I always forget what's in Warriors and what's in Ultimate Knights. The two of them together, those 12 issues, are my favorite arc. So I really like this arc, but I also really like that arc, and it's a direct sequel. Like, spoilers, Shang-Chi and Iron Fist are coming back. So is Moon Knight.
There's actually all later. There's stuff in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So specifically, there's Moon Knight stuff I thought was in this that's not in this. And I guess I knew the Iron. There's also some Iron Fist stuff, but like. So this is half of my favorite story.
Okay. So you need all of that.
Yeah. Because like when I was rereading, I was like, oh, that like Moonlight stuff's not in here. And like, oh, and this isn't in here. I was like, oh, that's right, because there is a whole other story that's basically a direct sequel to this. There is stuff in between, but there is a whole other story that's around like 112, like whenever Bagley leaves, because I think he leaves with like 115 or something. But yeah, so this is half of my favorite story arc of Ultimate Spider-Man.
At the risk of irritating people with yet another Star Trek comparison, can I tell you what this kind of reminds me of, just in the structure of how Bendis is dealing with just this book in different arcs? It's like the Klingon stuff, and specifically the Worf stuff in TNG. Where
it just keeps touching back on it.
Yeah, where we won't bring it up for a long time, and then when it comes back, it feels like you could have just skipped to it and read that. Even though there's stuff that informs, and more in this, stuff that informs characters that you actually kind of do need to have, like the breakup with MJ and all that.
Yeah, one of the things I think is interesting.
But this feels like the mythology stuff.
Yeah,
like
it's this and Goblin. Those are the two mythologies we keep going back to.
Yeah, and this I'm more interested in.
Yes,
because
I
don't love a lot of the stuff about the Goblin thing, and some of that's interesting. But I don't like Monster Goblin. There's stuff I'm not real impressed with, and some of that continuity he does not do a real good job of hanging on to.
Yes,
but with this stuff. He's back to his roots. This is like Bendis's Daredevil from a teenager's perspective.
But
that's kind of what it reads like to me.
But it's almost not his roots, because like, I don't know exactly when this came out, but like it's not far from his Daredevil. Like, he's still doing that stuff when he's doing this.
Well, it's his roots in that's where he starts in comics. Though, is street level crime drama.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing when he does Sam and Twitch.
Yeah. Well, and that's all his Jinx and the other.
Yeah, when I say it's his roots, I mean he's best at street level crime.
Yes, and it's why he should be writing Nightwing. Like, that is the DC book he should be on.
And I wish that he had kept his Spider-Man more with that kind of stuff, because he's better at it. But the problem is, if you're going to reinvent Spider-Man, you're going to want all the trappings. You're going to want all the different kinds of Spider-Man stories. And he's hit or miss. Some of those he's really good at, and some of them he's not as good at.
But he's better at this stuff.
Yeah. He's not good at costume villains. We've always said that. But his Kingpin in both places is really good.
I love Hammerhead.
I do too.
I think Hammerhead's awesome and really funny.
I think the way we take out Silvermane right away is really funny.
Yep.
Am I remembering this right? Did we introduce him here, or is it? No, he's brought up somewhere earlier, isn't he? But like barely.
No, I think you're thinking.
Or what am I thinking of?
I think you're thinking of Justin Hammer, who is introduced and murdered by Dr. Octopus in the first Doc Ock arc.
Okay,
he's also a rich, old white guy with like white hair.
So we haven't seen Silverman?
I don't think so.
I thought Silverman was like the old man that Spider-Man saved and didn't realize he was a bad guy. Didn't that happen at some point? Or am I thinking of even something else?
That's the animated series.
Well, yeah, that happens there too.
You might be right. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think this is Silverman.
While I was reading it, I thought he introduced him here, and if I'm right about that, that's really funny. But now I'm second guessing it. But here comes Silverman, and he dies in the same scene. It's hilarious.
Yep.
Anyway, no, maybe I am conflating it with the '90s show. I think you're right.
Where do you want to start with this?
Spider-Man stuff kind of mixes together sometimes for me. Well, one thing I wanted to say just right out the gate is all of the new characters, it's very much an introduction for them, and I don't have a super great sense of any of them quite yet, which is not really a problem, especially since you say that they're all going to get stuff later. But
specifically Moon Knight. Like, we'll do stuff with Iron Fist. I'm pretty sure Shang-Chi comes back. Shang-Chi might not come back, but I think Shang-Chi comes back. You won't get much more with Shang-Chi. Okay. If he does come back, because I don't even remember if he does come back.
It's weird, because that read like a team-up of characters I've not read before. It was kind of strange. It was like, here comes Iron Fist and Shang-Chi, and...
Yeah, like, I feel like they're less a team... We always put them in the same box because they're the two Kung Fu characters.
Right.
But they don't hang out a lot. Like, that's not a standard thing.
No, I know, but that's why I'm saying it read like a team up.
Yeah.
Like a Marvel team up.
Yeah.
But with characters that you're introducing me to in the first place. It's kind of weird.
Well, but it also makes it easier to choose two characters at once. I like that they're friends.
Yeah, sure.
But I also don't know if you need Shang-Chi. Or you might not need Iron Fist. Like, I think you only need one of them. I like both of them.
That's what I thought, too. I didn't really have a problem with it, though. I guess what I liked about having them both there was just the chaotic nature of all of these characters being thrown together at once.
And converging in this.
And I loved that. I bought it a lot because it felt like the Kingpin coming back was this catalyst that made all of these different characters unrelated to Spider-Man all show up in the same place at the same time. And that is what would happen in a Marvel universe. And I really like
just bump into each other.
Yeah, and like sometimes we force that or we pay it lip service because famously, you've always got people complaining going all the way back. Well, how come this character didn't respond to this threat? You got 4,000 superheroes in New York City. It seems like Doctor Strange would have cared about this, or Daredevil would have cared about this. How come these characters didn't show up? And this didn't feel like a reactionary thing like sometimes those stories kind of do. It felt really natural. These were the characters.
That all those characters don't have their own books.
That's true, but it felt like at least I was buying into these were the characters that would show up right now.
What was smart was because Shang-Chi's in a Jackie Chan movie, like straight up, like Jackie Chan is in like an underpoverished, like a not great neighborhood, and like there's some hoods and Jackie Chan don't want no trouble. Like that's what Shang-Chi is.
Yeah.
But the hoods are run by Hammerhead, which then gets you to Kingpin. Like, that was a really smart way to do that. I'm actually really surprised that there's not A, Jackie Chan reference, or B, a Big Trouble in Little China reference, because that's kind of where Iron Fist is. Like, Iron Fist is kind of like the white guy that rolls into Chinatown and like stuff's going bad. It's very
all the subgenres of crime drama happening simultaneously. Also, with all those different characters that you throw together, because Black Cat is a revenge thriller thing, and Elektra is your mercenary character. And then you got your Kung Fu guys.
And Moon Knight's just kind of straight vigilante.
Right, and then Spider-Man is your Eisen character, and he's just the teenage superhero who feels the need to take responsibility and attack this head-on because he knows he can, and because he has information. If Kingpin didn't invite Spider-Man over for pizza, which is a hilarious scene, and I love it a lot, and weirdly, the second dinner scene with them, I hope that keeps happening. I'm sure it won't, but I want that to keep happening. If that doesn't happen, there's no story here. And I like that Spider-Man has this wonderful kind of ethical conundrum of if the information comes from the Kingpin, am I kind of doing his dirty work for him, or do I become under him in some way? Is he going to come back and try to collect on this?
Well, it's such a great... So, because it's...
I don't want to be beholden to Kingpin.
Yeah, well, but it's also... he doesn't want to help him. So
Right.
Kingpin comes to Spider-Man and says...
And Kingpin's a master manipulator.
Yes. Here's all the information on Hammerhead. He's the person that's taking over my operations. He's now the bad guy.
Go get him.
Yeah. And Spider-Man's like, well, I'm not going to go get him. He's like, so you're going to let crime happen? You're not going to go stop the villain?
You're going to shirk your responsibility?
He's like, but if I stop the villain, I'm helping you. And then Jean DeWolf, he asks Jean DeWolf, and Jean DeWolf's like, you should totally help him. And then at the end of this, we get the big Jean DeWolf twist.
Yeah, which I was not expecting.
No.
And that's daggers, man.
Yeah, it's great.
I hate that.
I
mean, in a good way. I'm supposed to, but like, I'm not hating that Bendis did that. But oh man, I didn't want that.
Well,
right?
and it's
like,
been,
oh no.
It's been like a month since we recorded, but do you remember last arc when you said it seems like Spider-Man killed that guy? And Jean DeWolf comes out and says, like, no, he's fine, go fight the bad guy.
That makes so much more sense.
And I was
now.
like, she might be lying. It's entirely possible that guy did totally die or was severely damaged. Because she's...
And I was like, nah.
Yeah, I was like, she might be lying. It's because she's working for Kingpin.
Because you remembered this.
Yes.
Oh man, it turns the knife so hard because
I love
she is his. I mean, she doesn't know his secret identity, but she is his one. Not confidant right now, but really good ally. She is his Gordon. Like he doesn't even have MJ right now. And so when we find out that the one person that really has his back doesn't, like, he's not in great shape with Fury right now either.
Well, and this is the
Remember
kind
he punched
of
Fury in the face last time we saw him.
This is the and Fury might be in another dimension at this point. I don't remember where that happens. Remember, he's gone over to the ultimate the Supreme Power universe.
I forgot about that. You told me about that.
This is the kind of really fun stuff you can do with the Ultimate Universe, and it's a thing that you.
Because otherwise you're throwing like a beloved character under the bus or something.
Yeah, like if you did this in a movie, people would be angry. If you did this in a Spider-Man TV show, people would be... But when you're doing it in like this kind of alternate universe...
Here's this character for like 3 decades people like, and then now I'm going to come on and I'm going to have the audacity to take somebody's favorite character and make them the bad guy. Which we do sometimes in mainstream comics, and it's
but not like this, where it's like they were a bad guy the whole time.
Yeah.
But no, it's a super fun twist that is playing with the 616 audience.
And it works
because
perfectly.
You all trust Jean DeWolf because she's Spider-Man's confidant. You remember when she died and how sad it was. And... plot twist, she's
and
working
even
for
if you've never
she's
read
a crooked
her,
cop.
But also a teenager for whom this is their Spider-Man is also going to be duped by that.
Yeah, because she's an adult figure. She's someone to trust. She's a cop. She's a trustworthy figure, civil servant.
And wonderfully, because this happens so much and it drives me insane, this doesn't read retroactive at all.
No.
It reads like from the very beginning he knew that that's what she was... And it doesn't... I don't love... the panel where it's
evil
revealed.
face?
I don't love her evil face, but at least story-wise, it's lighting, but also just the way he draws the face there. I just don't care for that.
She looks
face.
almost like a man.
It's pretty. That's what I was gonna say. She looks like a man, and it's too demonic, and I don't care for it. But at least story-wise, it doesn't read like that 24 villain thing we're always complaining about, where like suddenly light switch, and now they're acting like a totally different character. Now, I don't know if she will as we move forward, but at least it doesn't read like that right now. So.
You know, I don't remember. All I remember is that she's evil. I don't remember like what we do with her after. I just remember that she's evil.
And also, something else to keep in mind is we haven't really dealt with police corruption in this book like at all.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we have that, and that the Kingpin's been pulling her strings the whole time because he got taken out real early, and it's pretty easy to think, well, he's not really a threat anymore. And it's like, nah, he's still got his pockets.
No, he's still super powerful because he's still got people on the payroll.
And the only other cop that we got to know was above board,
and he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about Gwen Stacy's dad.
Yes. Yeah, Captain Stacy. How did you feel about Moon Knight?
I don't have an opinion right away. I like the way his personalities are revealed. I like that discussion they have in his head while he's just sitting down talking to somebody else, and that's all going on while he's in the middle of another conversation. And at first you're like, who are these people? And you're like, oh, they're his personalities.
This is the first time I've ever seen DID depicted like that. I've obviously seen it many times since, I guess, most notably Split.
Yeah.
Although you don't actually go inside his head.
You don't go in his head, yeah.
But
I feel like there's other things I've read or I've seen that do that in film because you want to I can't think of what, but yeah, that whole idea in Split of like the light, like who has the light,
yes,
and he says he describes it as everybody is sitting around in a room with chairs. You remember that? And this is like that.
Seems to be pretty accurate to DID.
What it's actually like.
Yeah, but this is my first experience with that as a narrative storytelling device, and that always stuck with me, especially the little girl. The little girl always stuck. That there's like a little girl in his head.
Yeah,
which makes more sense to me now. When I was younger, I was like, that's just weird to be weird.
Why would it manifest that
but
way?
like understanding that like it's in reaction usually like to different things, and like so like that's probably his like childhood innocence, and like so his mind manifested a thing that represents childhood innocence or something like that.
And so even though he wasn't a girl, it doesn't have to be like exactly what he experienced, because it's his mind trying to make sense of things.
Yeah,
and so he doesn't have to have had the experience of being a little girl. That's going to mean something to him. That it just manifests that way.
It also gives Moon Knight also gives us one of my favorite. So this has 3 of my favorite jokes in all of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah,
all in one volume. There's a Moon Knight one where Spider-Man's like he runs around. I think it's Spider-Man. He's like it has to be Spider-Man. He's like he runs around wearing all white. Why? Have you seen the rooftops?
Seen the rooftops of New York City? Yeah, that was great.
The other 2 are horny Peter. Peter looking at Elektra's cleavage.
I liked that too. And I don't even think she really has cleavage. I think it was just she's standing right next to him and he's staring at her chest.
Well, it's a super low cut shirt.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's her assassin outfit. It is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, he is staring down.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
he?
no, he's staring down. It's a great panel,
and I like the wording of that where she says stop staring at them. I liked that a lot.
He's like, what? No,
I'm not looking at anything.
And then the payoff with Black Cat is hilarious and kind of heartbreaking.
Do you want to talk about that now, or should we save it?
I mean, we can talk about it now if you want to.
Since we're just kind of all over the place. Well, I have issues with it.
Oh, okay.
I like it and I don't like it.
Okay.
That was one of the big things I wanted to, or not big things, but that was a criticism I had, a thing I wanted to bring up. Maybe it's minor, maybe it's not. Obviously, I like it. I thematically, if that's the right way to put it, in dealing with like the way a teenager would respond to all of that. I like that he's been trying to kind of push back on her the whole book, and when she's right in his face like that, he just can't help himself. I buy that. Even in that situation where he discovers that she is duplicitous enough to turn and work with Hammerhead against Kingpin, she doesn't care that she's helping out a guy that's just as bad as Kingpin.
Because she only cares about Kingpin.
And by the way, she's like a more likable, I hate to say it like this, she's like a more likable Huntress to me.
Sure, yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially if you're comparing her to like Arrow Huntress.
Oh, that's what I assumed you were talking
really
about.
Really unsympathetic, but yeah. Well, they both have the same motivation, but like even in comics, I think this character's kind of, more fun to read than Comic Book Huntress.
I know, I love Comic
Even
Book Huntress.
Even though I like that character a lot. But I don't know. I guess whenever she's in revenge mode, dealing with like her father's death, I don't care as much about that stuff. It's after that she's more fun for me.
Yeah.
But like in dealing with specifically that whole thing where she's got tunnel vision, she's still got that kind of seductress thing going on, and she can still like kind of have fun and toy with people. And I like that she's able to compartmentalize emotions so that she's not just like a complete like.
She's not Frank Castle.
Yeah, and just no fun to read at all. I think people can compartmentalize that.
Yeah, that's not her whole life. That's not all she is. And
she doesn't have to be like totally broody
and there's
100%
an ending.
of the time.
She's like, Kingpin goes down. Like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I'm going to take the costume off. And I like that
which
scene
is
where she's
unfortunate.
like, you and I can go and ice skate or whatever people do who don't put on costumes.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm giving the positives for it before I get to my criticism,
sure.
Eric. But I also like that it doesn't turn out she's just toying with him, which is what I thought was happening initially.
I also like that it's not punishment, but kind of karmic, because he moves immediately from MJ to this, and like there is a scene where he is thinking about how hot she is, and MJ comes and sits down with him, and they have a conversation.
And I like that it's not a straight up love triangle.
Yeah, and there's like kind of a karmic payoff for that, where it's like you're a little bit punishing Peter Parker for being a horny teenager, which isn't something he can completely control, but
yeah, and he shouldn't have, ethically and stuff, not just against MJ, but the fact that the person that he's ready to start making out with really did something super wrong, right? Like, she shouldn't have been working with Hammerhead, and like, she just turns on a dime. Yeah, I'll do that if it means the end of Kingpin. And like, where does he think that relationship's going to go? This is not somebody you can trust, and she clearly does not have the values that you have. She's either going to be hunting this guy forever and doing a lot of ethically ambiguous things to do that, or remember, this is a black cat that has superpowers. They say low-grade superpowers. When she takes that costume off, there are going to be times where he's going to think that she has the responsibility to help someone, and she's going to decide not to. So any way you slice it, this is not someone to get involved with.
And she's older than him.
But like I said, yes. But
almost like 10 years.
And he knows that.
But she does
But
not.
she doesn't. So I like that he, like I said, that she's not toying with him and she really does care about him, and I also, or want to get with him. And I also buy that he is, that he in that moment is weak enough to do that. My issue with it is that she couldn't tell. I don't buy it. Too many other people do. Yeah. Like everybody that spends any amount of time with him can tell just from his voice that he's a kid. And we do this now a lot in the Marvel movies, because once you depict it physically,
and you can hear
him, unless he's, and even if you put on a voice modulator, the way he talks, you just wouldn't, but you'd immediately be able to tell that is a 16-year-old kid. And he's a sophomore in high school. I mean, like the kid's been past puberty, what, a year and a half, 2 years. Like, I don't know about that. That was the big thing for me.
Yeah, I don't know. She's
and Kingpin can tell immediately.
She's like 22 to 25, and like she's just kind of like freewheeling, and like I don't know if she's thinking about it. Like she just assumes, and like she's into him, and like there's a lot of stuff you don't notice when you're into somebody. There's a lot of red flags that don't tick, and I buy it well enough.
I think
it's
you
didn't bring it up last time.
I think it's a comic book kind. That's true, but I didn't trust that she wasn't messing with him. To be fair, because we do that a lot with Black Cat. Where she kind of likes him, but we're doing that Catwoman thing where it's like, maybe I'll get with you, maybe I won't, and then she's actually, maybe she is kind of infatuated with him, more interested in him romantically, but is more interested in something that she can manipulate him to do. And that's where I thought that was all maybe going. And I was kind of glad that it didn't, but at the same time, once the mask came off, I went, wait a minute, I don't know if I buy any of this.
I also think it's fun.
You can't depict this on screen. You can't begin to.
I think you could. Certainly in animation.
You'd have to do it with the right casting.
Yeah. Well,
okay, maybe in animation, but I don't think you can do it physically. I just think this is getting away with a thing in a comic book that you kind of can't get away with anywhere else.
But so is so much of Spider-Man. Like, so much of superhero voices where it's like, yeah, anytime he ever talks to anyone, they should know that this, like we do a lot of...
But the problem is, in this book, we made a point about that.
That other people...
Nearly everybody that hears him is like, wait, that just sounds like some kid in there. You see what I'm saying?
But it's
this is not the place to do that.
It's usually significantly older people. Like, it's like Kingpin. I think so.
Okay.
It's like Doc Ock. Like, I don't think there's a lot of like people in like their 20s that are like, that's a kid.
I mean, I think the Wolf can tell, but also she might have gotten that from Kingpin. Now that I know that twist.
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, so I
think it's usually older people in power who are supposed to be like, have their lives figured out.
But you see why I'm conflicted? I like that it turns out that she's actually into him, but I also don't necessarily buy that she would be.
Oh, but I love that he takes off his mask, and for the only time the entire series is not through Peter's POV. And he's got like pimples and stuff, and like
that's
and he looks like a dumb teenager, and I love it so much. And then she just throws up and runs away.
I didn't need the vomit thing.
Oh, I think it's funny.
Okay, all right.
I also think it's a really fun twist on the standard Black Cat thing, where like. She never wanted him to take the mask off because once Spider-Man takes the mask off, he's just a normal guy, and that's boring. He doesn't want that.
No, it was a neat twist on that.
I think that's a fun twist on that. No,
because and also it's a nice subversion of expectations, right? Because you're expecting her to be the new love interest. Since he and MJ are on the outs.
You do not expect it.
And not only are we not going there, but we can never go there.
I think the vomit's necessary. I actually think it's necessary.
Do you really? Okay.
I think it drives home the point.
Okay.
Like, I think it would be different if she was just like, and left, because like I almost feel like that's kind of up for interpretation. Like, you might not immediately get that it's that he's a kid. Like, I feel like it really drives home that she's like, oh my god, like,
and
I
then
can't
you're
believe what I
doing
did.
that massive like teenage embarrassment thing because she
Yes.
throws up on him.
Yes,
Like if I'd
yes.
written that, if I was
Yes.
going to do that, I probably would have had her walk away first and then vomit. But I'd see why we did it that way. Okay.
Yeah. No,
All right.
I think the vomit is actually necessary story-wise.
Okay.
It's also very funny.
You're winning me over. But yeah.
I love Kingpin's whole thing with Spider-Man, where Spider-Man's like, okay, so you're gonna explain to me how the world works and your philosophy and why it's okay that you're a monster, and he does explain to him why it's okay that he's a monster.
He just ignores that.
Yep.
I kind of like what the Kingpin philosophy is. Mm-hmm. You know, we should probably mention that the whole thing about and yeah, it does sound like kind of a cop-out excuse, but I think there's probably a part of him that actually believes it. The idea that that people don't that people actually deep down want someone to make the decisions for them, and that's the reason that people hate Spider-Man. Like, I like that his personal philosophy is then connected to a personal issue Peter Parker is dealing with, which is, from Kingpin's view, designed to try to manipulate him into doing something.
Well, and it's like the reason people love celebrity gossip. Like, it's that we need to know that those people's lives suck as much as us, even though they're rich, and they're like, people don't like exceptional individuals because you're not exceptional, and I think that's great. Yeah, and also very different from how he depicts Kingpin in his Daredevil run, where Kingpin views himself as like a necessary evil. Like there's that whole scene in this Daredevil where he's like, yeah, New York's always needed people like me. Like once I leave, like, it all falls apart.
But this is almost like a spin on that, right? Where it's like, because he says, if it wasn't me, it'd be somebody else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he's not acting like it's noble in this, like he might be in Daredevil. You're right. But he's saying, like, well, people. It's all for this. It's almost like a capitalistic thing, right? It's like supply and demand. Well, and people actually want someone like me around,
and people are content with things like this because no one's going to try and change the world. Like, everyone just knows it's bad, and everyone knows I exist. Not necessarily like the Kingpin, but like, we all know that there's mega corporations controlling everything, and that there's crime lords who are pushing things around, and like, we all know that all of our politicians are bought and paid for, and we just accept it.
So you're just taking advantage of cynicism.
Yeah, and like, why shouldn't you thrive in that society and just like use that to your advantage? They're
gonna be jealous of somebody like Spider-Man because they can't do the things that he can do, and he looks too perfect.
And it ties into that thing that Peter says to Jonah, I think back in the last Kingpin arc, when he's like, at what age do people just give up? Like, at what point, like what is it, 25, is it 30? Like, when do you just give up and say the world's screwed?
You're right. I forgot all about that exchange. Yeah, and with this,
and that's what Kingpin believes, is like, yeah, and at some point everyone's just gonna accept that the world sucks, and I can keep doing what I do.
And he tells Spider-Man, "You're a naive, dumb kid," and he says, like, there's a part of me that wishes that I could still have that naivety to some degree, but like, at some point, Peter said in that speech, at some point there's a light switch change, and you go, oh,
and the world's gonna break you.
Oh, this is what it's really like.
Yep.
And what's sad, of course, is that there reads a modicum of truth in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's the great villains.
Yeah, like, he's wrong, but he's not entirely wrong, and or at least he's wrong in what he does with it. And the idea is, because obviously the heroic argument against that is, but people could change if only
people need a symbol to inspire them.
Precisely. Yeah. You got to change hearts and minds.
Yeah. Something elemental that can't be corrupted.
Right. Like a spider.
There's a moment.
Why spiders, Mr. Wayne?
There's a moment in this that I don't know about, because I like it in the flow of the scene. And it's only one panel, so like, maybe it's not a huge deal.
Okay.
But when they have the big fight, there's a point
with
where
MJ or
the big fight, the big when everybody's fighting, when everyone is kung fu fighting.
And then he webs up everyone.
Yeah, which is great.
But I don't see how he had nearly enough webbing to do that.
I do it all the time in the Spider-Man video game.
That's fair.
But But
yeah, you don't really run out of web cartridges in that game.
No.
And that's fine. Because
Yeah.
I don't want really a mechanic where I have to go back to my dorm and get...
That's the reason in the
wherever I
PS1 Spider-Man game I
It's
always
not
played the
dorm in that,
Symbiote
but-
Spider-Man because it's got unlimited web. Because
Oh,
you
there
had
was
to.
limited webbing in that.
Oh yes, you had to pick up web cartridges. You could run out. Not in levels where you had to swing because obviously it wasn't an open world game. So like when you're swinging, it's not. But like when you're just crawling on buildings, you're like webbing people up, and you're just swinging like within a building. There is a limited web capacity, but Black Suit Spider-Man that makes its own web, so it doesn't.
Right.
There used to be fun stuff like that in video games. There's not as much anymore.
Yeah, where it's borrowing from the
And we're
actual
like
comic
thinking
canon.
about it.
Yeah, yeah. How can we make that into a game mechanic?
Yeah.
It's fun.
So Hammerhead takes the mask off of Moon Knight and takes a picture of him and says, "I own you."
Yeah.
And then Hammerhead dies.
I haven't. That was another thing I wanted to bring up. I have an issue with that scene too. We'll see if it's the same.
With
one.
Hammerhead dying?
No, with just that panel. I thought you were going to say the thing I was going to say. I'll say it in a minute. Go ahead.
I don't know how I feel about. We went out of our way to do that moment.
Yeah,
and then Hammerhead dies.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
But
what was the point of that?
Narratively, that is a question. Character-wise, I don't have that question. Like I completely buy
exactly why
that
you would do
Hammerhead
that.
does that. So I don't know. About
Maybe
that.
Because it's more of a surprise that he dies, because you wouldn't expect that, because it looks like we're setting something up.
It looks like we're setting something up.
Bendis goes out of his way to try to make things as realistic as he can I mean, obviously it's a heightened reality, but not in like physically what people are capable of doing in things so much as like motivation and how people interact with each other and how things unfold in life, right? And life is like that. And so maybe like it's just really believable that you would have
it's like a whole
like
page
that.
dedicated to it because you have this page that's the setup,
Yeah.
and then you turn the page and he takes the picture and says, "I own you."
Yeah.
So like, we really go out of our way to draw attention to it. But what is your issue with it?
He should be completely muffled, and the line should be because it is every other panel. He's got webbing over his face, and so Moon Knight should just be like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what you just said. Like, I can infer it because you took a picture, but he should have said." And then right before that, he's got he keeps trying to talk, and then there's even a shot after that before he dies where it's and I don't understand.
That's fair. I didn't think of that. Yeah. This is also I should mention I've touched in a couple of times on my like 2 subscriptions to Ultimate Spider-Man. Like this is the heart of my second subscription. Like it starts with like the back half of, or maybe it's not back half. Maybe it's most of Ultimate Goblin, and then I only get the first or second issue of the next arc. But like this is like which is part of why I think this and Ultimate Knights is my favorite. Is like this is part of my reading month-to-month subscription with this book, and it's not Geldorf, which it was last time.
Yeah, well, this so far is some of the most entertaining stuff, at least.
Yeah, I think it's just so much fun.
Most readable. It's really fun. It's wonderfully involved. But I don't know if this is going to make any sense, Eric, but it reads really simple and really complicated all at the same time to me.
No, it's a decompressed storytelling where I think this is a really complicated 2 issues. In 6 issues.
7, but yeah.
Is it 7?
It's 7.
79.85. That's 6.
It was when I was reading it. The last one was part 7. It's part 1 through part 7.
Weird, because it's 79 through 85.
Yeah, 7.
Oh, you're right. You
You have to count 79.
You're right.
As an issue.
I
It's
do that
7.
all the time.
No, yeah, sure.
Because it's not how numbers work exactly. But yes, you're right.
Yeah,
7.
no, it's
7. I
7.
guess it is 7. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no, I hear what you're saying. I don't know. It didn't read super decompressed to me so much as just like the story itself is, from Spider-Man's perspective, just the arc that he's going through is pretty simple. But you've got all these characters, all these different
story
motivations.
that he is moving in that arc through is very complex.
All these other characters, connecting all that together, it feels like a really complex, involved thing.
We mentioned TiVo, which dates this book.
Yeah, it does, but that's okay because it's almost kind of supposed to be dated. It's for the kids that are reading it right then.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that stuff.
But I think for the most part, like I guess except for cell phones, like I think this mostly holds up. I don't think a
You can still go
teenager
back
would
and
think
read
it would. Like if I gave this to like a 14-year-old, I don't think they would be like, this is so dated. Like I think there's a little
not
bit
as
of
much
it,
as the Stan Lee
but,
stuff, and
well,
even
no.
and even some 70s and 80s Spider-Man.
Or even like the 90s cartoon.
We're not. One thing we're not doing is making a lot of references to. Well, some pop culture stuff does come up, but we don't make a lot of references to like major political events and things like that. So that doesn't date it as much.
Yeah, no.
But there was one bit I thought was funny. I'm glad you brought that up. There's that. I wondered how necessary this was. You had a 2-page spread with a whole bunch of panels where you're reading all of these little conversations in the lunchroom. I don't know what the point of that was.
Bendis loves doing those. He's super proud of doing those because he writes every single thing. I skip them. I skip them every time in every book he writes.
He's trying to create atmosphere and he's trying to make it read.
He's not
realistic.
writing a movie.
Yeah, and I just don't need to know all those little side conversations. They don't have anything to do with anything.
The only time it works, and there's not like any like hidden jokes either.
In fiction, you're supposed to every detail's supposed to reveal something, and that just seemed like fluff and yeah.
The only time it works is when he's writing Daredevil, because he uses it in Daredevil to show Matt Murdock being like he can hear everything.
Yeah.
So like it works there because
it's character.
Yes, it's doing something. This is just scene setting.
It's just generically teenagers being teenagers.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that he would have an argument for it, and I can imagine what that argument would be, which is, here's the normal, mundane teenager life, and there's very little of that in this book. And the rest of the book is a teenager in the middle of all of this.
That only works if you open there, and we don't open.
Well, that's a good point too.
Like if you're setting the stage, like here's what his life is normally like, and now it's going to go into chaos.
With all the crime drama.
Or if you were doing something where like Peter was there and he's like, oh man, it's crazy here. Like there's so much happening. Like everyone's taught like something like that, and then it's like no, it gets real crazy.
Yeah, because it's not like we're in his head. He's not thinking about any of that. It's just all there. But the reason I brought it up was because I did read some of those balloons, and one of them was, "What is podcasting?"
That dates it.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, like just look at all of this.
And is that a different scene? Is that the scene?
That's the scene.
Oh yeah, this is darker than I remembered it. Weird.
Well, it might be lighter on the tablet.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, sure. I think the colorization looks different on the tablet. Weird.
They've recolored a lot.
This is a little more muted, or at least that's what it looks like here. I'm not sure if it's recolored or not. I'd have to go back.
Well, and there's also like just being backlit could change it.
Well, yes. I'm getting to where I really like reading comics backlit, but yeah.
But yeah, there's this big scene, and like Bendis loves doing these, and I've heard him say that, like that he loves doing them, and he's really proud of them.
In like a Suntress podcast or something.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of his Suntress podcast. No, you're a schmoopy. That's a Seinfeld reference.
Oh, okay.
Those are the things that I want in here.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, I want to have fun being like, oh, that's this. Oh, that's this. Okay, so, no, you're the schmoopy. That's...
But it does interrupt everything. Yeah, because to be totally fair to Bendis, you're saying there's not anything fun like that, but you skipped it. So how would you know?
Because I've read it before.
Oh, okay,
I skip them now. I have learned to skip them.
I gotcha.
And I started it, and I was like, oh, that... Because sometimes something important happens, and like I just kind of... So I like skim to see like does Peter talk? Does MJ talk? No, okay, I'm just skipping this. No, it's a learned trait with Bendis books. I've probably read that page a bunch because I read this arc a bunch because I had them in issues, and like I reread this arc a lot.
There's one full-page spread that I wanted to point out that looks like just a pinup poster. That like it doesn't have any dialogue on it or anything. It's just Spider-Man swinging, and like it's really cool.
I think I've seen it when I was looking through it a couple times.
There, but like he's just swinging. I don't know where it is. It's not important.
I remember.
I'll try to put it in the video.
I remember there's actually there's some interview with John Suntress. I don't know who it's with, but there's a John Suntress.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That could have just been like a pinup thing, or it could have been like the last page of a comic. And
is it the last page of that issue?
It's not.
Okay.
You keep going. Yeah.
Nope. But
it's just communicating. He just had this another like terrible argument with MJ, and he doesn't want to be Peter Parker. You could have called. I meant to mention this earlier. You could have called this arc "Peter Parker No More."
Yeah,
and that wouldn't have been a terrible title for it, because he opens this with Spider-Man No More. What was I thinking?
Peter Parker's where all my problems
I have to be Spider-Man, and I'm more comfortable as Spider-Man right now. I should not be Peter Parker. This honestly is kind of Peter Parker No More, and I like it for that. It totally works.
But no, there's a podcast where Suntress is talking. He's complaining about, and this was a couple of years ago, but like he was complaining about in Dark Knight. I think it was Detective #1, the New 52 Detective #1, where he was like, okay, so books are $3.99 now. You cut 2 pages. He's like, and then there's a double page splash of Batman running across the rooftop.
Yeah.
He's like, you're wasting pages with this.
Uh-huh.
Now we're not there yet.
It doesn't matter how gorgeous it looks.
Yep.
If it doesn't inform the story and you're paying that much and you're double shipping, it's gonna look padded.
Yep. And I think we are double. No, we're not double shipping here. I don't think. Because there is a point with the double shipping, and I think that was definitely doing Geldorf stuff.
If you do that in an oversized book where it's 30, 40 pages, I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, if House of X did that.
Sure.
Yeah. Or like if it's mean, because like Walking Dead does that a lot. Walking Dead does a lot of, like, you can get away with...
But it's in something like Walking Dead, it's never a person just posing.
No, it's an emotional. It's a beat.
Yeah, because you're not going to complain about that with something like Batman holding the dead body of Jason Todd or something.
Or,
of course not.
Or even,
it means something.
Or even if it was like Spider-Man reacting to something, like, this is just him swinging. Like,
yeah. It like, putting that right after that, I get what he's communicating, but it feels a little bit padded.
Yeah. Whereas this works. I mean, regardless of how you feel with the actual art, this works as a...
You're talking about the DeWolf reveal?
Yeah, the DeWolf reveal. Like, that works as a full-page splash with two lines of dialogue on it.
That's also become a real standard in comic structure. That's how we end comics.
Someone steps into frame you did not know was there. It's almost embarrassing. Go read older comics, and like how many... Almost no issues end on a full-page splash.
Wow.
Like just go look at 70s 80s comics. Like they never end like that. Like even if it's a big reveal, like it'll be like a series of panels, and like I don't know why, but I can like picture Ultron at this moment where like it's like a, I think that's how the first Ultron reveal is done. That's in the 60s, but like it's the last panel of like a 6-panel page is him like being like, it's me, Ultron.
Now we opened with them a lot.
Yes, we used to
it would be like there's like a specific word for it. It's like an action something, I forget, but
yes, I don't remember. You're right.
But
I
like
don't
every issue in the first 10 or 20 of Amazing Spider-Man did that.
Well, Ditko loves doing that, and Kirby loves doing that.
Yeah,
but Ditko's were always.
And then Stanley would put all this text all over it.
Ditko's were always like a preview, like it was almost like a second cover,
right?
Where it's like this is what the issue's going to be. But Kirby did it, and they use it in Ninja Turtles. Eastman and Laird have talked about that they used like every Ninja Turtles starts with
a big splash page.
I think it's a double page splash because Kirby moves to that. Like by the time he's doing New Gods and I started reading Eternals and like he does it there, Kirby loves the double page splash as an opener. So like you have like, I forget what the first page is, but it's always the second and third page are a double page splash. No, we used to do that stuff a lot, and I don't mind that as much. Although
it sets the scene. It
comics for 5 cents. Like I don't mind it as much.
Recently, I reviewed an arc by request of Punisher Max, and was interested in
which arc?
How it was Up is Down, Black is White. It's 19 through 24.
Okay, yeah, I've read that.
And so the Ennis run, and it's interesting that they never do full page spreads at all in that book, or at least in the issues that I read, or rarely. There's a couple where we open with one, and we also never go across the page. That's the big thing, is we never go across the page in that book. It's always up and down. Every
arc of that has a different artist, so it might alter by artist.
Okay. But just in that arc, we didn't do it, and I thought that was interesting. Because I've been so used to reading Bendis lately. There's one issue, I liked the structure of it. I didn't have a problem with it, but there's one where it's so involved. There's so much going on. I think it might be the issue where all that crazy action starts in that wherever we're at. What kind of establishment even was that?
It is Shang-Chi's dojo, I think.
Okay. But the first 3 or 4 pages, they're all... I can't find it. The first 3 or 4 pages, they're all across the page.
But I love that.
And I thought maybe the whole issue was going to be done that way. And I was surprised when it wasn't. Once we get to the big action beats, we're not doing that as much.
And those are good pages that don't feel wasted.
No, not at all. Well, especially because you get, like, 150 panels across several pages, and that's because there's so much dialogue and there's so many characters talking.
You're talking about the thing that Bendis does where it runs across. I was thinking of the double page spread.
Sorry, this is an aside, but it's going across the page.
Because I was thinking of this where we have, I think we have 2 or 3. No, I guess not.
I noticed those more now reading in digital. Because
there's like 2 or 3 in here.
When I'm reading in digital and it goes to those, I have to go panel to panel view.
Oh! I see what you're saying.
That's how I do it.
Yes.
You could flip it, but the dialogue is still small enough.
Yes.
And also, I like going panel to panel for those because when there's like 40 boxes, it slows down the action. And when a lot of those boxes don't have dialogue and it's just... And then Elektra pulls out a sai, and then she throws it, and then this thing happens. I like looking at that one box at a time.
Well, and we've talked about Bendis has this problem, and it's bad in trades because sometimes it gets lost in the gutter where you can't tell if it's 2 pages or 1 page across.
I know.
Because
like, didn't have
the
that at
panel
all
will go over like just a little bit, and like it gets lost in the gutter, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to.
The worst place for that is Daredevil. It happens constantly in that book. But he continues to do that even to this day.
He says he does it to control ads.
Yeah,
because you won't put ads on like in the middle of that. Never once have I read a scene where I was like, thank God there's not an ad in the middle of this, like any more than any other scene.
I just think it's easier to make it than they're making it to make it clear that you're supposed to go all the way across instead of going down. Sorry if we talk about this too much, but it's a thing that bothers.
You just put a long one in the middle or something.
And then you change it up.
It can't be just a little bit. No, because a lot of times it's just a little bit.
What he'll do is it'll be like a 9 or 12 panel grid or whatever, and it will go all the way across, and it's one grid, one set of boxes. You don't want to make it like the Brady Bunch. That's not how you do that. You go like you say. You do one across. And then you break it up so that the ones beyond it, at least the ones in the middle, don't go straight across. And then you know, oh, okay, I'm supposed to read this all the way across. It doesn't happen anywhere in this book. But.
Yeah. That just depends thing. Is there anything else you got to say about that?
Did you want to say anything about that MJ fight?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't really talk about that.
I think it's just placeholding. Like,
you think so?
Yeah. Well... We're going to spend a lot of time with sad MJ, because like I said, MJ never gets to be with anyone else.
Yeah. I wouldn't completely dismiss it that way, only to say I like that...
I also read this like a month ago, so it's not super fresh in my mind.
So she goes and sits down next to him at lunch and is like, I thought we were still friends. Why can't we at least talk some? And... I can see why you'd say placeholder because they don't really get anywhere in the conversation, but I kind of...
She's trying.
She's trying really hard, and I like the reversal because this is usually done with a guy who's been broken up with a girl, where he can't deal with the fact that they're not together, and he's pining, and he's constantly going back to her, why can't we be together? I kind of like the reversal with seeing it with her, and...
but he's also being a jerk in that scene, because, like, right before she walks up, he's thinking about how hot Black Cat is.
Well, that's true.
And there is, like, a real, like... And Peter Parker's being a jerk teenager right now.
But she also... Yeah, and I think at some point in that scene he kind of starts to forget about that, and that's not so much of what it is. Like it is true that
he starts having the conversation.
Yeah, like she gets and doesn't get why they can't be together, right? It's like I get that you're in that like you're in a dangerous field and stuff, but she says, but we both love each other. What about that? Like doesn't that count for something? Isn't it worth the risk? They're both right, and that's what I like about it. Because he keeps saying, But you keep being stupid and putting yourself in these situations.
Because I think
where
she
you
asks for
don't
don't I get a second chance? He's like, you had second chances.
A bunch of times, yeah. And she was acting like kind of a ditz in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a little bit back and forth on it because he says, this was the main thing I wanted to talk about with this, which is why I brought it up. He says,
Peter and MJ, no more. He's
She
real stuck on no more right now.
She says, you said I was stupid for getting in the middle of the crime fighting stuff and putting myself in danger. That's not fair. And he says, yeah, it was a heated moment. I shouldn't have said that. But the book opens with him in internal monologue saying, God, MJ, she's so stupid. Like, he's still thinking about it like that.
But that also feels like a teenager, doesn't it?
No, it does. Yeah.
It is a very fine line with writing teenagers.
No, absolutely it is. Sure. And
because there are no sympathetic teenagers. Like in the real world, teenagers are not sympathetic ever.
And whenever he says that, it's a little bit difficult not to see it as a little condescending, like, you stupid girl. Only a girl would do that. It does feel like that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that does read pretty believable. I guess in that particular moment, I just wasn't 100% sure if I'm supposed to kind of, I don't even want to say side with Peter, but be sympathetic in his saying, yeah, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have said that. Because we also write, Bendis is also really good at making these teenage characters that make a lot of mistakes and haven't found themselves yet. He's good at making them reasonable also. Mm-hmm. So, like you say, that's a fine line in the writing also.
Unlike real teenagers, who are never reasonable.
That's not fair.
Okay, so I was right, this came out in 2005, so I'm 14 when this comes out.
Yeah. So just the age that it's aimed at, really.
There's a kid with a Stones t-shirt.
Yeah, I saw that.
In 2005.
Yeah, I can see it. You know, he probably grew up with it with his dad.
Or he's never listened to it.
Yeah. Well, I saw so many Metallica shirts.
Yeah, but I feel
now,
like
the Stones
Metallica's
go way
getting
farther
popular.
back. And also, the Stones are like 20, 30 years older than Metallica.
But like Metallica rocks, like
20, 30, 20.
I don't mean as the Stones are the
mid-60s?
Stones are I mean it's Stones or Beatles. Like that's the thing. Right. Like you're a Stones person or Beatles person. Like it starts in the 60s.
There you go. Yeah. And Metallica's 80.
Metallica's somewhere in the 80s. But like even then, like metal's still popular in 2005.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
sure.
Classic rock
it's on its way out, but
yeah.
And all the best stuff is behind us, but yeah.
Well, you're in the new metal era at that point, but
right.
But like I feel like Metallica. You still see people with Metallica. You're talking about teenagers, but like Metallica's almost like Kiss.
2005 was like, name a rock band, Green Day. Name another one. I got that. That's
Simple
what
Plan.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Simple Plan was on Smallville, I think. Right? Are they the ones that are on Smallville?
What do you mean? I mean, there's several bands on Smallville.
But they have like 3 songs.
And
I distinctly remember the beginning of, I think it's season 3 or season 4, where Clark's evil.
You don't have to tell
and
me
he
the
breaks
song
into
first.
that. He breaks into that. It's girls don't like boys. Girls don't like boys. Girls like cars and money.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think
but they never actually
Simple Plan.
perform in that show, right? It's just.
I don't know, but I feel like they have 2 or 3 songs in that.
Because there are several bands that you actually see like on stage in that show, like promoting their music, and you're like, I don't know how this tiny town in Kansas keeps getting all these big bands.
Holy Rejects, I think, is in there. I don't know if they're doing Dirty Little Secret, but I think they do perform something.
I think actually it is Dirty Little Secret.
Of course it is.
Or that's in the might be incidental also. I'm not sure.
Anyways.
Yeah, well, we're way off topic at this point. This is great.
Yeah.
The vibe of this, first of all, one thing real quick I wanted to mention is I like the pacing of this still. Like, it's such a quick read.
Yeah.
Like, you say decompressed, and that's true, but it's also such a quick read.
Yes,
like,
yes.
You blow through it. Tonally, it feels like mid-'80s Spider-Man comics to me.
I don't know.
Like, specifically any of the kind of street level crime drama stuff, like pretty crime drama stuff.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with
most
that.
of what I read when I read that stuff. I don't know if it's like DeFalco's run. Or
it's probably DeFalco, because DeFalco's right after Stern, and so he's doing.
Or was it Stern? Yeah, maybe DeFalco. But I was getting vibes from that.
Yeah. And well, DeFalco's right before.
And also, I think some of those
Nikolai.
characters we were doing stuff with then too, as Silvermane and guys like that.
Yeah, I know it's weird because like I was reading this as a teenager, so it was just like super modern.
Well, and the thing is, like at the age that you were when you read this, that's when I was buying some of those '80s issues. You know, going to flea markets, finding that stuff back when it wasn't as expensive. So like I could buy that stuff for $3-4 all day long back then.
Well, I hope you're psyched. I'm pretty sure next is Silver Sable.
Woohoo!
It's Silver Sable
I'm
or
so
Deadpool.
excited.
I think it's
no, it is Sable.
Oh no, it's definitely Silver Sable because I had the first 2 issues. But don't worry, because you're also getting Omega Red.
Oh man,
Omega Red is also in the
Can't
next
wait.
arc. Yep.
Eric, you're supposed to want to like psych out the viewers and get them excited for the next video,
And
not to be like, no, you can skip that one.
And I believe during the next arc is when the Ultimate Spider-Man video game comes out, if I remember correctly.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because Silver Sable's in that. This is kind of spoilers, but kind of not, because that game comes out and they say it's canon.
Yeah.
Silver Sable is in that game and knows Peter Parker's identity.
And shouldn't yet.
No.
Because he hasn't even met her yet.
Yes. So, like, I'm pretty sure that happens either while the arc is coming out or right after it. And I remember being very confused. Because...
If I can find the time, I might play that just for the heck of it. So
it's really fun.
Then
I like it a lot.
Then I can speak to it while we do those
It's up there for my Spider-Man games.
Okay.
Not that I've... Because after...
Wasn't there a lot of Venom stuff in that game?
Yes, you cut back and forth between Spider-Man and Venom.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Because I knew they sold it real hard on that.
Yes.
And Venom hasn't come back yet.
You eat people.
In this.
Venom has not come back yet. But yeah, it's...
I love eating people.
At the end of the day, it's not canon, but it's kind of canon, and we'll explain it when we get to that point in the comics.
Okay.
But yes, it come... you'd have to look up when exactly that game comes out, but I'm pretty sure it's right around the next 2 arcs.
I remember that being around mid-2000, 0506.
Mm-hmm. And it looks cool, because it looks like Ultimate Spider-Man. But yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you had a good time. We'll be back again soon for more Ultimate Spider-Man. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
See you, folks.